The child placed $2 bills on his table. Her hands were shaking, but her voice wasn't. My mama says you're the man who fixes things people can't fix themselves. He stared at the money, then at her split lip. She couldn't have been more than 7, standing in a restaurant he owned, in a part of town where children didn't wander alone, especially at night, especially not through his door. The kind of door most people knocked on only once in their lives, if they were desperate or stupid. She was neither. She was something else entirely. His man had gone silent. The kitchen noise had stopped. Even the street light outside seemed dimmer, like the world itself had leaned in to listen. He didn't move the money. He didn't touch it. Because the moment she'd spoken, something in her voice, steady, clear, too old for her face, had made the air in the room change. "What's your name?" he asked quietly. She didn't answer. Instead, she said, "I need you to make my mama's boyfriend go away." And that's when everything quietly began to unravel. This is a golden heart story for anyone who's ever believed some people are beyond saving, until they meet the one person who refuses to believe that. Before we go any further, I need to ask you something. Tell me in the comments, have you ever met someone who changed everything about how you saw yourself? Because this story isn't just about a dangerous man and a brave little girl. It's about what happens when two people who shouldn't matter to each other at all collide in a moment that neither of them can walk away from. And what that collision cost them both. His name was Vincent Callahan, though almost no one called him that anymore. Most people called him nothing at all. They just nodded, paid, left. He built his life on silence and fear, on knowing when to speak and when to let the weight of his reputation do the talking. He was 49 years old and had been in this business since he was 16. He'd buried friends, buried enemies, buried parts of himself he'd stopped mourning decades ago. He didn't have a family. He had associates. He didn't have a home. He had properties. And he didn't have regrets, because regret was a luxury for people who still believed their choices mattered in some moral sense. Vincent had stopped believing that a long time ago. But here's the thing about men like him. They don't become what they are because they're born cold. They become cold because staying warm costs too much. And Vincent had paid that bill in full by the time he was 23. The night he'd watched his younger brother bleed out on a sidewalk 3 blocks from where they grew up, over a debt that wasn't even his. After that, warmth felt like weakness. So he'd stopped feeling it. Or so he thought. Her name was Lily. She lived for streets over in a building with peeling paint and a landlord who hadn't fixed the heat into winters. She shared a 1-bedroom apartment with her mother, a woman named Grace who worked double shifts, had a diner, and still could make rent most months. Grace was 32. She looked 50. Lily had learned it early not to cry when things got bad, because crying made her mother feel worse. And her mother already carried enough. She'd learned to be quiet, to be invisible, to read the mood of a room the second she walked into it. And she'd learned that some men smelled like danger even before they opened their mouths. Her mother's boyfriend, Derek, was one of those men. He'd moved in 6 months ago, and at first, he'd been fine, polite even. He brought groceries once, fixed the kitchen cabinet. But then he'd lost his job. And then he'd started drinking. And then the apartment started to feel smaller. Lily had learned to sleep with her shoes on, just in case. 3 nights ago, Derek had shoved her mother into the bathroom door so hard the frame cracked. Grace had lied to the neighbors, lied to her boss, lied to Lily too, said it was an accident, said she'd slipped. But Lily had seen the handprint on her mother's neck. And that's when she'd made a decision. She'd heard the neighborhood kids talk about Vincent Callahan the way other kids talked about superheroes or monsters. Something powerful and untouchable. Someone who could make problems disappear. She didn't know if it was true, but she knew her mother was running out of time. So she'd taken the $2 she'd been saving from her birthday, the only money she had in the world, and she'd walked into his restaurant alone. Because sometimes, when you're 7 years old and the adults around you have stopped protecting you, you have to protect them instead. Vincent studied her for a long time. She didn't fidget, didn't look away. Her shoes were too small, her coat was too thin. There was a bruise on her wrist, yellow at the edges, a few days old. One of his men shifted near the bar. Vincent raised a hand, a silent command. Stay back. He leaned forward slightly, elbows on the table. You know who I am? Yes. You know what people say I do? Yes. Then you know I don't work for $2. Her jaw tightened. For a moment, he thought she might cry. But she didn't. Instead, she said very quietly, "It's all I have." And the way she said it, not ashamed, not apologetic, just factual, made something crack in a place Vincent didn't know still existed. He leaned back. "What's your mama's name?" "Grace." "And this boyfriend, he hit her?" Lily nodded. "Hit you?" She hesitated, then nodded again. Vincent's fingers tapped the table once, twice. A rhythm only he understood. "Where's your father?" "I don't have one." "Other family?" "No." "So it's just you and her?" "Yes." He picked up the $2, smoothed them flat, pushed them back across the table toward her. "Keep your money." Her eyes widened. "You." "I'll handle it," he said quietly. And then, because he didn't know why but couldn't stop himself, "What's your name?" "Lily." He nodded. "Go home, Lily." She didn't move. "Why?" she whispered. "Why what?" "Why are you helping me?" And that's when Vincent Callahan, a man who'd ordered violence without flinching, who dented careers and lives with a phone call, who hadn't felt anything close to softness in 26 years, looked at a 7-year-old girl with a split lip into crumpled dollar bills, and had absolutely no idea how to answer her. Lily went home. Vincent made a call. By midnight, Derek was gone. Not dead. Vincent didn't kill people unless they were in the life. Civilians, even garbage ones, were messier. Cops ask more questions. But gone was easy. Derek woke up in the back of a truck to states over with a broken nose, no wallet, and a very clear message that if he ever came back, the next trip would be one way. Grace came home from her shift at 6 a.m. to find the apartment empty. Derek's clothes were gone. His phone was gone. The bathroom door had been fixed. And on the kitchen table, there was an envelope. Inside 3 months' rent. No note. Grace sat down on the floor and cried for an hour. Lily didn't tell her mother what she'd done. She just watched her sleep that night. Really sleep, without waking every 2 hours, and felt something she hadn't felt in months. Safe. But safety, she was about to learn, always comes with a price. 3 days later, Vincent got a visitor. A detective. Not just any detective, Taryn Ortiz. Organized Crime Division, someone who'd been circling Vincent's operation for 2 years looking for a crack. She sat across from him in the same restaurant, in the same chair where Lily had stood. "Funny thing," Ortiz said. "A guy named Derek Turner just filed a police report. Says he was kidnapped, assaulted, dumped across state lines." Vincent sipped his coffee. "Sounds traumatic." "He also says his girlfriend's kid came to see you. 7 years old, said you threatened him." "I don't know what you're talking about." Ortiz leaned in. "Here's the thing, Callahan. I don't care about Derek Turner. Guy's got 3 priors for assault. 1 for DUA. He's a waste of oxygen." She paused. But a little girl walking into your place? That's a story. That's optics. That's the kind of thing that makes my captain very interested in what you've been up to." Vincent said nothing. Ortiz smiled. "So here's what's going to happen. You're going to stay away from that kid and her mother. Completely, no contact, no money, no fixing things, because if I find out you've gone anywhere near them again—" She stood. "I'm going to bury you." And she walked out. Vincent sat there for a long time. He should have felt relieved. He'd done the thing. The girl was safe. Her mother was safe. He could go back to his life. But when he closed his eyes, all he saw was Lily's face. The way she'd looked at him. Like he was someone worth believing in. And for the first time in decades, Vincent Callahan realized he wanted to be. He stayed away. For 2 weeks, he didn't go near Grace's building. Didn't send money. Didn't check in. He told himself it was the smart move. The safe move. But every night, he thought about Lily. Wondered if she was okay. Wondered if Derek had tried to come back. Wondered if Grace was managing. And then, on a Tuesday afternoon, he saw her, Lily, walking home from school alone. Her backpack almost as big as she was. Vincent was 3 blocks away, sitting in his car, watching a meeting that had nothing to do with her. But there she was. He told himself to drive away. Instead, he waited. Watched her stop at a corner store. Watched her count coins. Watched the clerk shake his head. Not enough. She walked out empty-handed. Vincent got out of the car. He found her sitting on the steps outside her building. She looked up. Her face lit up. "You're him." "I'm him." She stood. "You made Derek go away." "I did." "Thank you." He nodded. Then, because he didn't know what else to do, "You hungry?" They ended up at a diner. Not his restaurant, somewhere neutral. Somewhere no one would ask questions. She ordered pancakes. He ordered coffee. And for the first time in his life, Vincent Callahan had a conversation with someone who had no agenda, no angle, no fear. She told him about school. About her teacher, Mrs. Chen, who let her borrow books. About her best friend, Maria, who'd moved away last year. About her mother, who was tired all the time but still read to her every night. And Vincent, who hadn't talked about anything real in years, found himself telling her things he hadn't said out loud in decades. About his brother. About the neighborhood they grew up in. About the moment he'd realized the world didn't care who you were supposed to be. Only who you were willing to become. "Do you miss him?" Lily asked quietly. "Every day." She nodded, like she understood. "I miss my dad sometimes," she said. "Even though I never met him." "That makes sense." "Does it?" "Yeah," Vincent said. "You can miss the idea of someone just as much as the real thing." She looked at him for a long moment. "You're not as scary as people say." He almost smiled. "Don't tell anyone." They talked for 2 hours. And when he finally drove her home, he felt something he hadn't felt since he was a kid himself. Light. But waiting outside her building was Detective Ortiz. Ortiz didn't say anything. She just stood there, arms crossed, watching as Lily got out of the car. The girl looked between them, confused. "Go inside," Vincent said quietly. "But now Lily." She hesitated, then ran inside. Ortiz walked over. "I told you to stay away." She was alone. "I don't care. She's a kid. And you're a criminal," Ortiz snapped. "You think you're helping her? You think playing nice guy for a couple weeks erases what you are?" Vincent's jaw tightened. "You don't know anything about me." "I know enough," Ortiz said. "I know men like you don't change. I know that little girl looks at you like you're a hero. And one day, maybe not today, maybe not next week. She's going to see what you really are, and it's going to destroy her. She stepped closer. So here's what's happening. I'm filing for a restraining order. You go near her or her mother again, you're done. And if you think you can make this go away the way you make everything else go away. She paused. Try it, please. Give me a reason. Vincent said nothing. Because what could he say? She was right. He was what she said he was. And Lily would see it eventually. And it would break her. So he nodded, got in his car, and drove away. That night, Lily asked her mother about the woman outside. Who was she? Grace didn't know. But she did know one thing. Vincent Callahan hadn't come around again. And Lily stopped smiling the way she had for those 2 weeks. She went back to being quiet, invisible, the way she'd been before. Vincent tried to go back to his life, but it didn't fit anymore. The restaurant felt emptier. The meetings felt pointless. The money felt like nothing. Because for 2 hours in a diner, he'd remembered what it felt like to be someone worth knowing. And now he was back to being someone people feared. He thought about his brother, about the choice he'd made all those years ago to become this, to survive this, to stop feeling so the pain would stop too. But the pain hadn't stopped. It had just changed shape. And now it had a name. Lily. 1 month later, Vincent made a decision. He called his lawyer, liquidated assets, set up a trust, anonymous and traceable, enough to cover Grace's rent for 10 years, enough for Lily's education, enough for them to build a life without fear. And then he left. Not the city, not the business, but the version of himself that couldn't be what she'd seen in him. If this story reminds you of someone you almost walked away from but didn't, share it with them. Because some people don't just change your life. They change what you thought your life had to. 5 years later, Lily was 12. Grace had remarried a good man, a teacher, someone who made her laugh. They'd moved to a better neighborhood. Lily was in honors classes. She didn't remember Vincent's face anymore, but she remembered his voice. And she remembered what he'd said. You can miss the idea of someone just as much as the real thing. One afternoon, she found a letter in the mail. It was addressed to her. No return address. Inside. You told me once I wasn't as scary as people said. You were wrong. I was exactly that scary. But you made me want to be something else. I never got there. But I got closer because of you. Keep your $2. You're going to do something great with your life. I know it. And tucked inside the envelope, 2 $1 bills, smoothed flat, like they'd been kept somewhere safe for a very long time. Lily folded the letter carefully, put it in a box under her bed. And that night, when her mother asked what she was thinking about, she said, "Someone I used to know." "A friend?" Lily thought about it. "Yeah," she said quietly, "a friend. Thank you for spending this time with Golden Heart Stories. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe. Your support helps us keep telling stories that matter. Now tell me, what part of this story stayed with you the most? Leave it in the comments. Because sometimes the smallest moments are the ones that change everything.